Welcome to the first episode of Empirical Animal Podcast Experiment. Our first guest is Nisha Sivan, who's a musician, songwriter, and singer trained in Carnatic style, which, for those who don't know, is a South Indian style of classical music. Last year has been huge for her. She had her debut album launch at the end of October, and here we will discuss everything that led up to that point. We'll talk about her career change, about her relationship with music, and how it's always been present in her life, but only recently she really allowed herself to acknowledge that she is a natural-born performing artist and step on stage. We also talk about how growing up in between cultures and being exposed to many different styles of music informed her taste, and how she seeks to go beyond a single genre and really create a sort of a fusion style that would truly reflect artistically who she is. Personally, I found a great deal of inspiration in Nisha's story. There's quite a bit of similarities between what she did and what this podcast means to me. So if you find yourself in a similar place, then this episode is definitely for you.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. Really happy to be on the first episode of your dream podcast. So I'm just thrilled to be speaking about lots of different things. And like you said, music is my passion that I recently rediscovered. So just excited to see where this conversation goes.
So maybe let's take music as a starting point, because this has been the thread throughout your life. So how did it start? So I know that you put it on hold. And recently reconnected with it and really did this with a full force. And now making this your new career path.
Yeah. So it started because we had a lot of music growing up in the house. You'd start the morning with a cassette tape of music playing for 3 hours that would bring in good vibrations. That was the intention of it. And then we listened to a lot of Carnatic music as well in the morning. Sometimes we'd set it as our alarm. So the association with music started off with my mum and dad's. They wanted to bring in traditions that they'd grown up with into our house. They weren't necessarily always good associations, because obviously having that piercing as your alarm first thing in the morning doesn't really make you feel like you want to listen to that. I feel like when I got the opportunity to actually do it myself, so I started Carnatically training when I was 8 years old, that's when it really developed into something that I was interested in, because you get to meet friends, you get to see people who are part of the diaspora. It made me feel like it was something that was innate, so I could sing, and I felt like, just learning techniques and things was really, really fun, because I had a fusion of styles that I was learning at the time. So I was learning music in school in the choir, and then on Sundays it would be Tamil school, so I'd learn from my teacher there. When I got the chance to train my voice and actually free my voice as well, and just sing pieces that I was learning, it was fun. I finished that and then went on to university. I just didn't go for classes or anything, so it sort of fell away. And during my university career, university and career, so I had an almost 10-year career in accounting. Even then, I didn't really sing. And I'd just really, although I wanted to, I felt really shy about it too. So I didn't really have the need to practice anything, because there was no structure around my vocal. I need to achieve this, or I need to finish an exam. I'm not working towards anything. So then I didn't feel like I wanted to practice. So it just completely went away. And then, during my accounting career, it's been said a few times in the lead up to the release of the album, but basically what happened was that I felt like there might be something more creatively for me, and I felt like I wasn't feeling as fulfilled in accounting as I had been. I'd worked in so many different industries, and I was kind of like, okay, if I'm working for a great company and I'm not feeling fulfilled, I'm going to turn inwards and just see what it is that does light me up. So then during that time, I sort of had lots of things like signs, let's say, that were pointing towards singing. And during a period of stillness in a career break, you're able to listen to those things a bit more and see how they make you feel. Throughout my career, I was connected to music, actually, in that I would curate huge playlists. That was a massive thing. It was almost like a part-time job. I would do that in the evenings and just make sure that my playlists, they flowed really well and things like that. So yeah, that was a huge interest. I then felt like when I was on the break, music, that brings me immense joy. I go to gigs all the time. I get euphoric when I'm immersed in my music. So how can I do something with this? How can I explore that potential? And that was an option, let's say. You know how I said earlier, stuff started sort of lining up. So I got asked to be a part of a competition, a singing competition. And this is where it's different, because when you're in a career and you're working really, really hard, as in, for me, in my personal experience, it was that I just felt like I didn't have the time for anything else. But this time I just had all the time in the world. So then I was like, okay, yeah, why don't I just do this? And then I enjoyed it a lot. And following that, the person who'd organised the competition said, why don't we release an album? So that opportunity came at the right time. So yeah, that's how that all happened.
So I think that a lot of us can relate to the situation where basically we're following a career path that seemed to be motivated by the decisions that become obsolete at some point. So we're not saying here that there's anything wrong with being an accountant. Of course, it's equally valid profession as that of being a singer. It's just you got to the point where you are not finding the fulfillment that once has been present there, right?
Yeah.
So that was the trigger to take this time to reflect.
When I was in accounting and I was curating my playlist, putting all this beautiful music and these sounds, I say sounds because I'm really experimental when I discover all this stuff. So then I always sort of dreamt of what it would be like to be a musician, but never envisioned that it would be me. The feeling that I had when I was going through it was almost like, wow, I've got the opportunity that I've always dreamed of, but kind of suppressed, because I felt like, no, that will never be me. I just don't believe that I'll be able to do that. This is the one single direction of my life. Yeah, I just kind of proved myself wrong, and that limiting belief that actually we can only be one side of ourselves when I opened up a completely different avenue. That feeling was so liberating, like just being able to make music and then going into the studio and learning the processes that I'd watched on Instagram, because obviously that's all available now. So you do see and admire your favorite artists and their process, and then think, wow, that's so... It looks really cool and they enjoy it. They do it for the love of it. So being given that opportunity and actually finding that it was the truth that they, what they're experiencing, I was able to experience fully and just authentically connect with a process. Yeah, that was a cool feeling. That was really cool.
For me, really incredible part of what you did was putting together the team that involved other artists, friends, family, countless people, really, if I look back at it. But that the process also happened very organically, so fully inviting the contribution from other people, and it has been shape-shifting, transforming.
I feel like my experience of this particular creative process was that there was something that like an idea that we'd conceived, and I felt like it would be great to have people who connected, who felt a genuine connection to the intention behind the project, as in everyone who felt like they resonated with the message that I send when I was reaching out to artists and things. Everyone who felt like, oh, this looks interesting, kind of thing. I loved to have those sorts of people on board, because that energy that you feel between your collaborators is really the enjoyable part of the process. I valued that so much. And it was that above anything else. Everything about connection is prioritized, including connection to the music, dancing, the themes that we bring in and fuse into this experience that we're going to give people. That was all given a priority. That's what it was all about, having fun.
And my experience as an audience member at the event was that we really expanded beyond the music. So while it was your solo show, this was about your album. Like in many parts of the event, you pretty much stayed in the kind of in the background, right? Allowing those amazing dance performances to unfold.
So the idea was that we've got a platform that evening. Let's get as many people who would love to perform because, it's such a great thing when you have a stage, you're an artist and you can express yourself like, however you want. That's what expression is intrinsically about, just being able to do whatever you like with no infringement from anyone saying, this is how you need to do it, this is how much time you've got. It was all about saying, okay, you're bringing you to this event. Can you actually just do your thing? This is where it all worked itself out as well, because the time allocations and things, it kind of just, like the timing just worked out perfectly in that it wasn't going to be too long, too short or anything. So it just worked itself out and I was very happy about that. But yeah, all the artists and things, they were just left to do their own thing. They had complete freedom. And I feel like in a way that is linked to my spiritual belief in that, like, if I feel like I want to be able to be free when I'm invited somewhere to perform, it's so nice to be able to also have that for someone else when I'm hosting an event. So yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your intention about the work. The album itself is a concept album.
So the idea behind the album was to give people something to enjoy sonically, because I'm so into music and I listen to so many artists. I really wanted to give people an experience that I've had where I get uplifted from music. That was the intention, just people switching on and then, they hear the drum beat and it shifts something in them. Maybe part of the intention, now that I look back at it, was to just ask people to tune into how they feel as well, and just see how they respond to it. It's interesting to hear how the music has, like the feedback on the music, but it is just for everyone to decide for themselves what it does for them. But the idea of the energy invocation, so, each track, the concept being that each track has a different purpose, was one that was also important. And yeah, each of the track names has a different invocation. So then the new beginnings, transformation, empowerment, service and love to all, and then the warrior energy. All of those energies are things that are pertinent. They apply to my life. So I felt like if it's useful for me, then maybe it's useful for someone else. The usual formula that we're I definitely created this album for myself and then to share the joy that I got out of the process with people. That amount of joy that I felt, it was to do with reading myself as well throughout the process. So like what really resonates and what listening to my heart and saying, okay, this feels like it's working. No, this genuinely isn't working. I'm not feeling anything from this. The final product of all of these energy invocations, in the spirit of honesty, it was output that was good quality. I felt like, considering Uncle's work on it, on the production side and things, he's got experience in this, so that was going to be fine. I feel like, my musicality and things, it was, as a complete novice, I felt like, I'm going to be learning so much through this process, but my heart connection to my own sound and feeling, like, oh, this isn't quite right, but the joy was there throughout the process, and even working with mum and things. I just loved that relationship that we all shared. So because of that, it felt like, if it's not perfect this time round, I'm not going to be overly harsh about it and feel like, okay, it has to be right before we release it. And I kind of surrendered that and felt like, no, this vibration that we have right now, it's going to be shared. And yeah, that was the intention behind it.
So it's a really, really beautiful collaborative experience. The album itself, the event on another level, reflecting on this process of transformation, which to me means taking a step back, introducing some kind of fluidity, openness to new possibilities, and obviously facing challenges, right? Like overcoming old patterns of behaviors.
10 years in accounting, I stayed, even though, towards the end I felt like the connection was completely kind of dwindling. I did feel like, okay, there's so many good things about a profession in accounting, including the stability and the fact that it is very reliable and that you know what you're going to be doing. It's cyclical, funnily enough. So then every month, then you know what your whole month is going to look like with the structure. So breaking that cycle was probably the biggest cycle that I've ever had to break in my life. Just because I felt like something was just tugging. That feeling inside was so strong that I felt like, wow, I am in a repetitive cycle, and the nature of it is so repetitive that I'm feeling like, I know this, I'm not feeling challenged anymore. So maybe that was what sparked it. I was missing a challenge. And then that cycle completely broke open when I decided to just stay still for a while, as opposed to being a doer. I'm always, in the past, felt like I needed to be doing something to feel valuable. So, throughout my career, I was always pushing myself to prove myself in my career. I actually did write down all of my pattern behaviors and things. I did a lot of journaling during that time, which was lovely to see. In the beginning, it starts off as a surface thing where you're like, yeah, okay, but this happened to me and this, this isn't going right. Why? I found a lot of answers in my journaling. It was all fortunately for me, it has been all by choice. All my decisions actually led me to where I was at that point. So, I feel like I took a bit of accountability to break cycles or just look at the cycles, see what worked and see what wasn't working, and just take stock, move forward with stuff that was working. It's important to note, actually, that in the transformation period, sometimes you feel like lost. As in, I'd say I should bring it back to my personal story and be like, yeah, I felt lost.
So how did you go from feeling lost to actually having the clarity, motivation, and plan of action, right? That led you
understanding myself, for sure. So yeah, it was all about doing a lot of journaling, finding out maybe passions, preferences, and then also making that connection between my feelings and things that I could do to invoke those. So
self-inquiry.
Deep self-inquiry revealed a lot about me. And when I was releasing old patterns and things, and that made a lot of space for exploration as well. So calling in new ideas. And I was just a lot more clear on who I was up until that point. So I was open to anything that came along that was related to music, and I was DJing. So I actually went on a little course to learn how to do that. And partly, because I wanted to connect with fellow DJs, really. That was why I went on the course. So building a community was also important, because I was in the wilderness on my own. So then people who have been there, done it, and they really, I can learn a lot from. I was hanging out with those sorts of people.
So maybe I'll introduce some parallels. This podcast session is very much me entering on this path of redefining, rediscovering myself, where before I was hiding behind the camera. Now I'm coming to the front. I have to confront profoundly challenging conditions for myself. Also discover how actually all these poor people that I've been interviewing in the past, how they felt.
Exactly, yeah.
It's still that what got me to sit in this chair, to invite you to have this conversation, was basically my intuition. Was your relationship with your intuition?
The self-inquiry revealed the feelings. You know how I was talking about the feelings that I wanted to invoke. I really recognized experiences from my past that brought me those feelings, and I felt like, okay, how do I recreate feelings of joy, of peace, of, on the emotional guidance scale? How can I just cross off all of the top emotions through experiences? So I knew what I was looking out for, how I wanted to feel before the opportunities came along. So that programming, which is what it is, it's literally rewiring your brain to look out for the things or recognize and be, it will be a familiar thing. A synchronicity to me is something that is familiar and ties in with a lot of stuff in this. I derive a lot of meaning from through my lived experience. So that when it comes along, I'll instantly just recognize it. And so those signs and things, they're connected to feelings. And then that's why when I know, it's a recognition. And then I'm like, okay, this feels like it's going to be right. Yeah. In summary, it's a feeling.
And so after completing this arch, do you feel like you've maintained the ability to move so intuitively, or was it more like a part of that specific experience?
I feel like that's a very good question, because I do feel like the serendipitous things and those synchronicities, me recognizing them, really, it was like an accelerated period of those things in the lead up to the event. And now it feels like maybe I'm refining my feeling, the connection between my feelings and experiences and things. So I look back retrospectively, see what I liked. I'm in that period where I'm doing the self-introspection again, and the inquiries about what I loved about it. And yeah, I feel like that's really, in my journey, it's really something that I love to do as well. I actually enjoy doing that evaluation. So that's where I'm at. And like I said, in the lead up to the program, and there's been a lot of that this year. Like, I almost thought that I was going to become a teacher. So at the beginning of the year, I was volunteering as a teacher, and then in 2 different places. And I felt like, yeah, I also love this. It sparked me up. I felt like, just teaching children things that I didn't even need to train for those roles, essentially. What I mean is I had the transferable skills from my career, and it seems like all the experiences that I've had amalgamate into that one thing that I can give back. Right now, I'm feeling like it's like I'm in a void, like, where there's a bit of silence, I think, and I'm invited to just tune in and meditate on what's happened, and then the synchronicities will probably come back when I've reprogrammed. That's a lot of robotic language there, but I feel like that's how my brain works anyway. I'm kind of thinking, okay, maybe that's the accountant in me, honestly, that it taught me so much about, okay, what worked, what didn't. So yeah.
Right now, looking back at your own work, what's your relationship with it?
It happened pretty quickly, and I don't know if this approach is like what I should be doing, but I actually felt like I needed to go on to the next thing pretty quickly, because it's kind of like, okay, I've released this creativity in the process. was, it was like cathartic. Making people aware that it existed and things like that, so that they could have a listen and see what it did for them. That was good. But then after it got released, I felt like artistically, neo soul was the genre that I really wanted to explore. So my heart is always calling out for that genre. Although I think I mentioned that I've got playlists in every genre, but I feel like because of my upbringing, my sonic upbringing, I feel like that's the genre that I really, really want to collaborate with people on. And to be honest, I've actually considered doing it under my Nisha Sivan, like keeping the brand intact kind of thing, although it does have a very Asian focus at the moment. I would like people to understand that we're all multifaceted, and we can be different versions of ourselves in one identity, which is Nisha Sivan. That's the next project. Something neo-soul related is what I'm really hoping for.
I know that there's a big influence for you were the soundtracks from Tamil cinema. So this kind of eclectic style blending, musical aesthetics is something that was a strong foundation for you, for your musicality. So let's get more musical. Let's talk about your influences.
Yeah. So one of the major influences when I was growing up was A.R. Rahman, and he's someone who's done that. So he blends cultures and genres all the time. That's probably why, like, the universal appeal of his music was huge when I was really, like, in my formative years. And that's probably why I'm the way that I am right now, because we had a lot of his stuff. Or something like, we had a lot of other directors who, whose soundtracks we'd listened to, but there was something about the quality of his music that struck a chord. The school I went to had people from, it was an international school, so there were people from all over the world going there. And it feels like that experience taught me a lot about how to appreciate different songs and different, so many eccentric styles of music, because not one of us was the same. Had the same. We had a lot of commonalities. There were people in my class who had a lot of shared music taste and things. So we'd make a deep connection quickly. But at the same time, I was exposed to so many different things. And considering how small the school was, it was just. I'm so grateful that we got the chance to fuse all our music tastes together, because at school, one of the very interesting things is that at the time I should say, I wanted to be liked as well. So, when you're a teenager in high school, you listen to the music that all your peers are listening to, just to seem like, okay, I'm still relevant in this conversation. I know what I'm talking about and things.
And to belong, right? To feel,
to belong, exactly. And there was a lot to keep up with. Honestly, very, very, very glad that everyone loved music. So we had, the first generation of iPods. Everyone was playing music all the time. So. Keeping up with music and that introduction of different styles and things, that was huge when I was in school. Basically, that informed a lot of my taste, and also everyone, because we were all different, wanted to be different from each other as well. In the end, the alternative and experimental part of my taste comes from the fact that everyone wanted to stand out. So that made it very individuated too. So everyone was looking for novelty. It was such a good time. And not to mention, you, as in Piotr, you know this already about my sister and how much of an impact she had on my musical taste. So we grew up listening to a lot of the big British radio stations, and TV also had music stations as well with videos and things. So it was the MTV generation, and that was also a big part of my Britpop influences. Like American music has a universal appeal, but Britpop, there's a lot in Britpop that can also be fused into my music that I'm so glad I had.
So right now you're opening up new chapter in your musical career. Like, what would be now a dream music project for you to embark on? You did name the genre that would be something within the neo soul realm. Feel free to toss some references. Like, who are the artists that inspire you?
One of the projects that I have in my mind, in a dreamland, it would be to rework the songs and maybe have some established, people who really can breathe life into the tracks. That's what I mean by established. To have them sing the songs and cover them and make them their own, that would be like a project. I admire so many musicians who are based in London as well. So many who are abroad, but now remote recording and things are possible. So yeah, there's lots of people that I'd like to experiment with. But another part of the dream is that people actually connect to the music and approach me because they're like, okay, yeah, this sounds like someone who we understand and whose intention or vision we kind of see. That would be cool. So I'm open to any collaborator who really understands what it was all about.
I mean, I remember your performance at the open mic in Camden, right, where your music was standing out as that which is from completely different world, right, and was very well received.
Yeah.
I can say.
As in, yeah, I remember there was someone who said that he'd been coming to open mics for 2 years and then he hadn't heard anything like that, which is, yeah, I hope that was a good thing. But yeah, it was honestly so fun. Just bringing that to the open mic stage is really about giving people a fresh, new experience. And to be quite honest, I hadn't been to many open mics before that one, but at the same time I really felt like the connection to other musicians was also something that I was seeking. So yeah, that whole experience, it gave me everything and more that I wanted from it. So yeah.
And was challenging compared to obviously having your own show, having large audience, having your community present there, being backed by other musicians on stage?
I feel like because the invitation for the event, so the audio launch event, was pretty much open. It was literally anyone who will enjoy the vibrations is welcome to come. So I was, in my mind, visualizing there'll be someone who has no idea why they're even there. They've just come with a friend kind of thing. But when they're there, they're like, what is this? There's something that connects to them. That's what I was... that was my thinking behind going to the open mic nights. It's kind of like I'm just there in the background, but maybe someone gets curious about what was happening. Your
other passions are dance and fashion, right? So how these kind of interact? I mean, obviously at your show, it was quite in your face. But how do you see that this can progress from now on?
Oh, music videos, the dream. Again, seriously, there's people who, I'd love to assemble another team, like literally, people who will be able to execute this vision that I have of, and maybe it will be for Pancha Amirtham. I'm not sure if the music videos that I have in my head from I'm talking about video references from TLC and like bands from the 90s that I want to bring in and fuse in my music videos. So I'm kind of like, however I soundtrack these videos, I know the videos and I know what these videos are going to be like, kind of thing. That's how I'm going to showcase it's going to be all-encompassing in that sense, yeah.
How do you carry this energy forward, right? Like how to keep the momentum going?
Yeah, as in feeling like I'm open to inspiration, I suppose. I feel like showing up to things was what got me, what opened doors. So it's important to actually connect with people in general, just where I can. And if I feel like my energy is good on a particular day, I'll be like, okay, yeah, this is the day where I go out to that event that's on. And then through that, connecting with people, having a conversation that's meaningful and with no agenda, like literally just going into a conversation to just explore. I'm curious about evolving at this time. Like, you know, the reason why I wanted to bring in a contrast of sort of other artists who may have a formula that they use and it really works for them. So it's kind of like, you know, there's no real change, and people really love it, and so do they. So that's why they do it. But at this time, I do feel like refinement is a huge thing. When I go to gigs, the artists that I like, they have a quality about them that is experimental. So I feel that I also want to see what that feels like. I just want to see what evolving feels like, because I don't know at the moment. I just went on, so with the event, I did feel like I was being a very authentic version of myself, but there's stuff that I feel like, you know, maybe I want to just try and change and see what happens. So yeah, that exploration is going to happen.
So trying to summarize this conversation, what was my desire here is that transformative events that we can design for ourselves as a sort of art therapy in a way, which give deep satisfaction in terms of like both personal development and expansion of your career, or perhaps completely new path. I find these extremely valuable, interesting, and well, I think we need more of that. These turning points are what I find like the absolutely most interesting moments. They need to be cherished, like you did. Mm-hmm. Well, bravo for that, and thank you for this conversation. And anything you'd like to add to round it up?
Yeah, as in, yeah, just thank you so much for doing this with me. I mean, the whole process that we've been on, just being in tune with, we were in tune with each other. It was really fun it was just so fun to explore with a creative, and especially because I've never done that before. Having you with me throughout the journey has been just so cool. I feel like people may connect to this in the way that we intend for them to, just because we feel so connected to creativity, and we share that between us. Mm-hmm. So that's what it's all about.
Really grateful for these words, and at the core, like my work, I believe, is to highlight the process, the making process, and how important it is, and as much as the finished product, be it music, be it artwork, it's absolutely necessary to have the like a living testimony for what has occurred. But really capturing the process with all its changing tides is really fascinating, because, well, that's the lived experience. I believe that absolutely anyone can tune into that and experience it on their own.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so inspiring, given that I think it's fair to say that both of us were career transitioners. So yeah, it is open to anyone. It's so brilliant. I think everyone has creativity inside of them. So yeah.
Thank you for listening. This was Nisha Sivan on Empirical Animal Podcast Experiment. All the links to Nisha's music and her social media channels are included below. You can also find a link to the live recording of her album launch event. Until the next episode.